Hey, this is Professor Dave from dragondrapcode.com. In a previous video series, I showed you how to take information from a spreadsheet and show it in in an app. Okay, and in this series, I'm going to show you how to actually let the user input information into the spreadsheet and into the app. Okay, so we're going to just click this plus button to create a new screen, and I'm going to rename that screen input screen. All right. So we've got the screen one, which is kind of the home screen. Info screen shows a particular person, and input screens where the user is going to be able to input information. And what I'm going to do is grab a text input component. Okay, and this is unlike a label. Label's kind of read only. Text input is where the user can enter something, and the hint is what's going to kind of prompt them to enter the information. So in this first hint, we'll just say enter name. Okay, and I'm just going to duplicate this guy. Once you get a text input box that looks like you want it to look, duplicate it, and these little dots allow you to do that. And that way the next one will be the same size. Okay, so I'm just going to move this guy down, and in that second guy I'm going to say enter description. Okay, and then I'm going to duplicate that guy and do one more, and this one will be enter the picture URL, right? Because we want them to be able to enter a picture, and it's going to have to be a URL though. Okay, so there we go. And notice these lines kind of help me line things up as I'm dragging and dropping. I'm also going to just throw in a labels or some labels here, just so the user knows what they're doing. Like I'm just going to say name here, and then I'm going to duplicate that guy and just bring this guy down and try. You can work on getting the thing set better, but for now, let's just kind of make a bare bones form here. So description, and finally the last one is going to be the pick URL. Okay, and these labels are just guideposts for the user, so they know that the hint's going to tell them stuff. But once they've entered something, we want them to also see, what it is that they've entered. Okay, so kind of a lame form, but it's okay for now. We've got these three input boxes, and one thing I'm going to do is rename them. So by names, that's different than the text that shows up. The name is what you'll see when you go to the blocks editor and you start coding. And we kind of want those names to be descriptive. So I'm going to call this guy the name text input. Okay, instead of text input one. And then down here, I'm going to call this the description text input, or I'll just use DSC for short. And then finally, the pick URL text input. Okay, so anyway, I've got three text boxes. I got labels in there as well, and I'm just going to put one button. So really, nothing's going to happen until the user clicks the submit button. Okay, so the use case is going to be enter some stuff, click submit, and then that's when the app really actually records something. Okay, and so anyway, there's a submit button. All right, so here's our user interface. We could certainly work on this, and make it a lot prettier. Okay, but for now, we've got our user interface, and let's get to the kind of the real important part of this, or the hard part to learn, is how do you actually make the interactive code so that whatever they enter here gets put into this spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to blocks, and in my blocks, notice I've got these descriptively named text inputs now, and I rename my button submit button, so that's good. Okay, and essentially when they click the submit button, I'm probably going to want to verify that their inputs are okay, but for now I'm not going to do that. But what I do want to do is take whatever they've entered and stick it in this spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and the way you do it is scroll down and find your data sources. And in the previous video, we used some of these blocks to go get information from the spreadsheet. But now we're going to use the create row block, which actually sticks something in the spreadsheet. Okay, and it's going to have a field, a little slot for all the different columns in the spreadsheet. And I only showed you the first 3 columns, and we're not even going to use the last 2, which is lat and long. So if you're doing some map stuff, you would use those 3. Okay, for us, we're just going to deal with the first 3. And those text input boxes, we can go grab what the user's entered in them by grabbing the text property. So I'm going to grab like this pick URL text.text, and I'm going to stick it in for the pick value. And then I'm going to copy it. And now, just make sure once you copy it, switch it over to the right one. I'm using Command C and Command V on Mac to copy and paste. Then finally, my description, I'm going to use description text input. And then, I'm not going to deal with lat and long. We could have added that as 2 more input fields, but we're just going to put 0.0 just default values in for those, and that's what will show up in the spreadsheet. Okay, so when the submit button gets clicked, we're going to create a row in our spreadsheet. And then, once we do that, we just want to navigate back to the home screen. Okay, that's what we want. And believe it or not, we've got the brunt of our code in already. Okay, so let's test this. And just to let you know, it's not going to work on the first shot, but let's try it out. So make sure you click screen 1, okay, and then test. Okay, there's our tech superstars, and notice we have no way to even get to the input screen. Okay, so error number 1, or at least the first thing we haven't done yet, is we need to add a new button to the home page. And I won't make it pretty, but I'll just put a little plus in there. And let's actually put it a little closer. And I'm going to put a plus there, and I'll rename it to the plus button. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of make it a little better sized and center it. Okay, so I've got this plus button. Actually, I don't want to call it the plus button. I want to call it the add person button. Okay, and so I'm in the designer. Now I click on blocks, and when the add person button is clicked, so when I click the add person button, what do I want to happen? All right, well, this is pretty simple. When I click that add person button from the home screen, I just want to open up not screen 1, but input screen. Okay, cool. So now I should be able to at least test my app. And okay, so I'm going to go back to, I'm on screen 1, web preview, run it, click the plus button. Oh, cool. There's my form. Okay. So now my form comes up, and I'm going to enter some information. And, I'm just going to put some stuff in here. Ada Lovelace is another tech superstar from way, way back. And she's the one that kind of, she really was one of the first people to envision like the computer. So she envisioned the computer before it existed. So she's really a pioneer. And for the pick URL, I'm actually going to go just real quickly, open up a window, Ada Lovelace, and here's a picture of her. And I'm going to, be careful when you do this because you want the URL, but I'm going to copy the image address. So you don't want like one of these for the web page, but you want the image address. And it should be a PNG or a JPG or something like that. And then we're going to paste it in. Now notice I'm testing, so I'm actually pretending I'm the user, and this is what the user is going to have to do. You can also later, we'll do a series where we let the user choose from their photos or take a picture with their camera. But for right now, we're gonna, and you'd probably put some instructions in here to tell the user to enter a URL. So what we want to happen is when they click submit, for it to show up in the spreadsheet and show up on the main page. So when I click submit, like I said, yeah, it did not show up on the main page. Ada Lovelace did not. But if we open up our spreadsheet and scroll down, I think she's going to be there. Whoops, not that far down. Yeah, there she is. So the thing we just entered, Ada Lovelace, we've got our description, we've got the URL that we pasted in, and then 0 and 0 for the Latin long. Okay, but something happened. Why did this, why did it not appear in the main page? And I'll tell you why. In fact, if we rerun the app right now, so back to editing and then re-preview, it'll show up. Okay, and you have to scroll down, but there's Ada, right? So she did show up once we restarted the test. Okay, the problem is, and it's a little kind of a weird, it's not really a glitch, but it's just an issue is when you click the button. So let's go back to editing. But when you add this row in the spreadsheet, go back to screen one, screen one is not going to update its view, okay, unless we tell it to. Okay, and so this is a little bit sophisticated, but let me show you what you need to do. Is on screen one, you actually need to, when it opens, okay, so when screen one opens, and that happens both when the app starts, but also when you go back to the screen, okay, from a different screen, which we're doing. When screen one opens, you actually need to say, you know what, I want my data viewer grid, I want it to update. I want it to refresh its data. Okay. And once you do that, now when you open the input screen, the user input stuff, and they navigate back to screen one, the screen.opens code is going to get triggered. It's going to refresh the data, and the new person will appear right away. Okay, as opposed to, oh, the next time you restart the app, the person shows. Because obviously, when a user enters something, you want that feedback to come immediately. So anyway, don't forget this final step to add this refresh data on the screen.opens.